What if the story of humanity, the one we are told in history books and whispered in halls of worship, is missing its most crucial chapter? Imagine a truth so profound that it was not merely forgotten, but intentionally erased. A key to unlocking the full measure of human potential, carefully removed from the records, its memory buried under layers of doctrine and centuries of controlled narrative. This is not a story of what was lost in the sands of time, but of what was hidden in plain sight. A legacy concealed not in a forgotten tomb or a sunken city, but in the one place every human being visits, yet no one has been taught to explore: the silent, infinite darkness of your own sleep. This forgotten chapter speaks of a time when a master of consciousness walked the earth, offering two distinct paths. One was for the world, a guide to living a moral life. The other was a secret, a spiritual technology whispered only to a chosen few under the vast, star-dusted canopy of the desert sky. A revelation not of faith, but of function. There is a quiet ache in the modern soul, a sense of profound incompleteness. We feel it in the silent moments between the noise of our lives, a persistent question that has no words. We search for meaning in careers, in relationships, in ideologies, but the feeling remains, a sense that we are living only a fraction of our true existence. What if this feeling is not a flaw, but a memory, an ancestral echo of a birthright that was taken from us? The memory of a time when we knew ourselves not as finite, fragile bodies, but as limitless consciousness temporarily bound to flesh. This hidden knowledge was a path to experiencing that truth directly, a method for transcending the physical cage and journeying into the luminous architecture of reality. It was a power so great that it threatened the very foundations of any system built on control. For an individual who can access their own divine source has no need for an intermediary. They become their own oracle, their own temple, their own savior. And that was a truth the burgeoning empires of the world could not allow to survive. Imagine Judea 2 millennia ago, not as a singular landscape of faith, but as a vibrant crucible of mystical thought. The soul journeys of Egyptian priests, the celestial ascensions of Jewish mystics, the Gnostic fire of philosophers from Persia and Greece, all converged in this arid land. It was here that a teaching of immense power was perfected, a synthesis of ancient wisdom designed to be the final key. The official story tells us of simple fishermen and followers, but this is a veil drawn over a deeper truth. Within the inner circle were initiates, souls trained in the ancient arts of consciousness, who were being given the master key. They were not being taught how to build a religion. They were being taught how to dismantle a prison. They were learning a repeatable, verifiable technique for liberation, a way to consciously navigate the realms beyond the body while still alive, to find a gateway that leads directly back to the unfragmented, eternal self. This sacred practice centered on the transformation of sleep. Today, we see the night as a biological necessity, a pause in our productive lives, a void of unconsciousness. We have been taught to see the darkness as empty, even to fear it. But the ancients knew better. They understood that sleep is a portal, a sacred temple into which the soul retreats each night. It is the bridge between the world of form and the formless ocean of pure being. This lost art was the secret of how to remain awake when the body slept, of how to use this nightly passage not as an escape, but as an entry point. It was the knowledge of how to navigate the dreamscape with intention, to journey through the astral currents, and to seek a specific frequency, a luminous doorway through which one could experience their own immortality. What would change in your world if you knew that every time you closed your eyes, you were standing at the threshold of eternity? This is the beginning of a journey to reclaim that which was hidden. It is a path to uncover the missing pages of your own story, to understand the forces that sought to keep this profound truth from you, and to reawaken the dormant power that lies within your own consciousness. The evidence of this forgotten legacy has not vanished entirely. It survives in cryptic verses of accepted scriptures, in texts that were buried, in desert caves for nearly 2,000 years, and in the universal human yearning for direct, personal experience of the divine. The knowledge was not destroyed, it was merely waiting. It was waiting for a time when humanity was ready to remember. If you feel the echo of this lost truth stirring within you, if you sense that your life is meant for more than what you have been told, then you are in the right place. Subscribe to this channel and join us on this journey of awakening. Together, we will walk the path back to the source. To understand the magnitude of what was hidden, we must first travel back in time, not to the sanitized landscapes of Sunday school lessons, but to the raw, vibrant, and spiritually charged world of first-century Judea. Imagine the air, thick with the scent of desert dust, ancient parchment, and the incense of 1,000 different prayers. This was no monolithic world of a single faith. It was a crucible, a meeting point where the most potent spiritual currents of the ancient world converged. From Egypt came the deep ancestral wisdom of the soul's journey after death, the knowledge of priests who could navigate the unseen realms in their light bodies, their ka. From the heart of Jewish mysticism flowed the sacred fire of the Merkabah, the celestial chariot upon which prophets ascended through the heavens to gaze upon the divine throne. And from the east, carried on the winds of philosophy and trade, came the Gnostic flame, the radical insistence that humanity was not fallen, but divine, merely asleep and in need of awakening. This was the world into which the master teacher emerged, a world already pregnant with the language of soul flight and inner divinity. In this charged atmosphere, a teaching of unparalleled clarity was given, but it was delivered in two distinct streams, like a river that flows both on the surface and in a deep, hidden current. For the crowds that gathered in the sun-drenched marketplaces and on the green hillsides, there were parables, stories of seeds and harvests, of compassion and morality. These were a guide for the world, a map for living a life of integrity within the confines of physical reality. But for the chosen few, for the inner circle who gathered not in temples of stone, but under the immense star-filled canopy of the desert night, there was another teaching. This was the hidden current. It was not a doctrine to be believed, but a spiritual technology to be practiced. Revelation not of faith, but of function. The official histories would later paint these followers as simple men, uneducated fishermen. But what if that was part of the veil? What if, among them, were initiates already versed in the ancient traditions, souls who were being given the final key to unlock the very machinery of consciousness? This key was the ultimate secret, the culmination of all the ancient wisdom that had flowed into this time and place. It was the knowledge of what was called the astral monad gate. This was not a metaphor for a heavenly afterlife, but a precise, repeatable technique for liberation while still living. The teaching held that the human soul, the true self, was an immortal, unfragmented spark of the divine source, the monad. The physical body and the waking world were a temporary experience, a school of dense vibration. But every night, during sleep, the soul was naturally drawn back toward its source. The lost art was how to make this journey. Consciously, it was a method to maintain awareness as the body fell into slumber, to navigate the fluid landscapes of the dream world, and to travel through the astral currents to a specific vibrational gateway, a portal of light that led directly to an experience of one's own eternal divine nature. To pass through this gate was to remember who you truly were, to drink from the well of eternity and return to the body with the direct, unshakable knowledge of your own immortality. Why would a truth so liberating, a revelation so profound, be buried? The answer lies in a simple eternal principle. Any system built on control is threatened by an individual who is free. This ancient wisdom was the ultimate path to spiritual sovereignty. A person who could consciously access their own divine core, who could commune directly with the source of all existence, has no need for an intermediary. They require no priest to interpret the will of God, no institution to grant them salvation, no sacred text to define their reality. They become their own oracle, their own temple. Their authority comes not from a book or a bishop, but from the living, breathing experience of truth within their own soul. What empire, what religion, what structure of power could withstand a populace that had remembered its own divinity? The answer is none, and so the knowledge had to be erased. It was not simply lost to the sands of time, it was targeted for extinction, the campaign to sever humanity from. Its spiritual birthright began in earnest a few centuries later, as the teachings of the Nazarene were co-opted and forged into the foundation of a new imperial religion. A new kind of power emerged. We can call them the architects of orthodoxy. These were not necessarily evil men, but men driven by a desire for order, unity, and control. At great councils, like the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century, the rich, vibrant tapestry of early mystical Christianity was systematically dismantled. Gospels that spoke of inner knowledge, of gnosis, were declared heresy. Texts that described the soul's journey were deemed dangerous. The focus was shifted from direct personal experience to a standardized creed, from inner awakening to external obedience. The goal was to build a church, a singular, stable institution that would hold the keys to salvation. And for that to happen, the knowledge that the key was already inside every human being had to be locked away and forgotten. This act of spiritual suppression was not an isolated event. It was part of a great forgetting that swept across the Western world. The burning of the great library of Alexandria serves as a timeless, tragic symbol of this era. It was not just books that were turned to ash, but entire worlds of knowledge, entire pathways to the divine that did not fit the new, narrow road of orthodoxy. The ancient understanding of the cosmos, of the soul, of consciousness itself was driven underground, and with it went the sacred perception of sleep. The night, once seen as a holy temple, a portal to the infinite, was demoted. It became a void, a biological necessity, a period of unconsciousness. We were taught to fear the darkness, both the darkness of the night and the unexplored darkness within our own minds. The gateway was still there, opening for us every night, but we had been taught to turn away from it, to believe it was empty. And yet, a truth this powerful can never be completely extinguished. Its echoes remained, hidden in plain sight, like whispers in a silent cathedral. They survived in the very texts that were chosen by the architects of control, cryptic phrases that hinted at a deeper reality. When the master teacher said, "The kingdom of God is within you," was he speaking of a feeling or a location? When he spoke of secrets given to the few but not to the many, what were those secrets? When he told his followers, "What I do, you will do also, and even greater things than these," was he promising miracles of faith or instructing them in a capacity of consciousness? These phrases are the faint, shimmering threads of a forgotten legacy. They are breadcrumbs left behind, waiting for a time when humanity would be ready to follow them back, to unravel the mystery and reclaim the lost chapters of its own magnificent story. The question that hangs in the air across 2,000 years of silence is simple. Are we that time? A truth that is buried is not the same as a truth that is lost. One is surrendered to the sands of time, its memory fading like a forgotten dream upon waking. The other is held captive, sealed in the dark earth, waiting. It waits not for an archaeologist's shovel, but for a moment of planetary readiness, a time when the collective soul of humanity is finally prepared to hear its own forgotten name. That moment began not in a university or a cathedral, but in the dust and heat of the Egyptian desert. Imagine the year 1945, a world weary from war, a world looking for a new story. Near the town of Nag Hammadi, a local farmer strikes something hard in the soil. Not a stone, but a tall, sealed earthenware jar. Inside, protected from the ravages of 16 centuries, lay a library of 13 leather-bound papyrus codices. These were not copies of texts we already knew. They were the voices of the silenced, the gospels of the so-called heretics, a collection of writings that the architects of orthodoxy had tried to erase from existence. This was not a discovery, it was a resurrection. The lost knowledge had not vanished, it had been waiting. Within these miraculous survivors, this library of the soul, we find the direct evidence of the hidden teaching. Consider the text known as the Gospel of Thomas. It contains no narrative of a life, no stories of miracles in the conventional sense. It is a stark, powerful collection of 114 secret sayings spoken by the living Master. And these sayings are not commandments to be obeyed, but keys to unlock the consciousness of the listener. He says the kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that you are the children of the living Father. But if you will not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty, and it is you who are that poverty. This is not the language of faith, it is the language of function, a direct instruction for an inward journey. It speaks of a divinity that is not granted by an external power, but is realized as the very essence of our being. This is the foundational principle of the astral monad gate. The destination is not a place called heaven, but a state of knowing who you already are. Among these resurrected texts, another voice emerges with astonishing clarity, a voice deliberately written out of the official story, that of Mary Magdalene. In scrolls like the Pistis Sophia, she is not a repentant sinner or a humble follower. She is the chief disciple, the apostle to the apostles, the one who asks the most profound questions and to whom the resurrected Master reveals the deepest secrets of the cosmos. He speaks to her of the journey of the soul after it leaves the body, not as a matter of judgment, but as a navigational challenge through different realms or aeons. He describes the forces that seek to hold the soul in ignorance and the passwords of light needed to transcend them. This is not a parable. It is a celestial map, a detailed guide for the conscious traveler. It is the curriculum for the inner circle, a spiritual technology for navigating the very architecture of reality. Why was this knowledge, and the sacred role of the one who understood it best, so brutally suppressed? Because a map to the divine within makes any external mapmaker obsolete. This ancient wisdom, so perfectly crystallized in the Nag Hammadi texts, did not spring from a vacuum. It was the culmination of a river of knowledge that had flowed for millennia through the ancient world. The priests of Egypt spent lifetimes mastering the art of navigating the unseen realms in their light body, their ka, a journey meticulously documented in their funerary texts, which were, in truth, manuals for the living soul. In the heart of Jewish mysticism, the Merkaba practitioners sought to ascend in a celestial chariot through the Hekalot, the 7 heavenly palaces, to gaze upon the divine throne. This was not prayer. It was a dynamic and often perilous form of soul flight. From Persia and Greece came the Gnostic fire, the unwavering knowledge that we are divine sparks trapped in a material labyrinth, and that gnosis, direct knowing, is the only key to our escape. The master teacher did not invent this path. He perfected it. He synthesized these ancient streams of wisdom into a single, direct, and accessible gateway for those who were prepared to walk through it. With this key in hand, we can now look back at the very scriptures chosen by the architects of control and see the hidden legacy shining through the cracks. The cryptic phrases, once smoothed over as simple metaphors, ignite with new meaning. When the Master says, "To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of God, but to them it is not given," we see the clear division between the outer and inner teachings. When he promises, "What I do, you will do also," and even greater things than these, it ceases to be a promise of faith-based miracles and becomes an instruction in the innate capacity of awakened consciousness. Even the famous injunction to be born again can be seen in a new light. Perhaps it was never about adopting a new belief, but about a literal second birth. The moment a human being becomes conscious outside the physical body for the first time, awakening into the stunning reality of their own eternal self. The clues were left in plain sight, hidden within the walls of the very institution that sought to erase them. The evidence, therefore, is not a single smoking gun. It is a constellation of light, a pattern of truth that emerges when we dare to look at the censored Gospels, the oral traditions of the mystics, and the coded verses of the canonical texts all at once. The suppression was so profound that it did more than hide a teaching. It erased the very language we use to describe it. The rich, nuanced vocabulary of the soul's journey was replaced by a flattened landscape of faith and sin. Sleep, the sacred temple of the ancients, became an empty room. The darkness, once a womb of creation, became a thing to fear. The great forgetting was nearly complete, but the knowledge was only buried, not destroyed. It slept in a clay jar for 1600 years, waiting, and now it has returned to a world that is starving for the very truth it contains. The question is no longer where the proof is. The question is, now that it has been found, what will we do with it? This is not a story that ended 2,000 years ago. It is a story that is still being written in the silent, unlit chambers of your own being. The Great Forgetting was more than a historical event. It was the casting of a planetary spell, a veil of mundane reality draped over a world that was once luminous with magic and meaning. This spell was not woven with incantations, but with doctrines, with rewritten histories, and with a carefully cultivated fear of the unknown. And its effect lingers to this day. It is the quiet ache in the modern soul, the persistent unspoken feeling that we are living a life that is somehow less than what we were meant for. It is the sense of profound incompleteness that no career, no relationship, no material gain can ever truly fill. What if this feeling is not a personal failure, but a sacred wound? What if it is the memory of your own divinity, calling to you from across the chasm of forgotten centuries? Consider the world that was built upon this forgetting. It is a world that celebrates the external and dismisses the internal. It teaches you to build an identity from your name, your job, your accomplishments, but it never teaches you to seek the timeless self that wears these identities like temporary garments. It gives you tools to conquer the outer world, but leaves you a stranger in the vast, uncharted wilderness of your own consciousness. The architects of this world taught us to fear the darkness, to see the night not as a sanctuary for the soul, but as a dead space. Between one productive day and the next, sleep became a biological necessity, a function to be managed, not a sacred portal to be explored. And in doing so, they severed us from the most profound opportunity for spiritual discovery that we are given every single night of our lives. They locked the door to the temple and convinced us it was just an empty room. The repercussions of this act of spiritual severance echo through our very civilization. Having been taught that the divine is an external authority, a distant king on a faraway throne, humanity became spiritually dependent. We learned to seek validation from outside ourselves, to outsource our salvation to institutions, and to wait for a savior to rescue us from a world we were told was fallen and corrupt. But the original teaching, the hidden current, was one of radical sovereignty. It was a revelation that you are not a fallen creature in need of rescue. You are a fragment of the divine source itself, a monad of pure light on a temporary journey through matter. The kingdom of God is not a place you go to when you die. It is the very fabric of your being, a reality you can access directly right now. The astral monad gate was not a myth of the afterlife. It was the operational key to this truth. And the system that hid this key did so because a population that has remembered its own divinity cannot be controlled. So we stand now, inheritors of this forgotten legacy, living within the walls of a reality, constructed to keep us from remembering who we are. We are taught to be busy, to be distracted, to fill every moment with noise and information, lest we fall into the terrifying silence where the deep questions of the soul begin to surface. We are encouraged to fear our own inner depths, to label profound spiritual experiences as delusion, and to trust only the five senses that report a world of solid, separate objects. This is the spell. It is the subtle, pervasive hypnosis that keeps us looking for the key everywhere, except the one place it has always been, within the infinite, silent potential of our own consciousness, the very space we enter when we close our eyes to sleep. Why does this truth, the idea that a gateway to eternity opens for you every night, feel at once so radical and so deeply familiar? This is where the mystery deepens, where the tension between the hidden truth and the official story begins to pull at the very fabric of your reality. Because a truth, this profound, does not simply vanish, it leaves traces. It embeds itself in the archetypes of our dreams, in the unbidden moments of awe we feel when gazing at a starry sky, in the universal human yearning for transcendence. The memory of the monad, of our true home in the light, is not in a book. It is a frequency that hums in our very DNA. The architects of orthodoxy could burn the scrolls, they could rewrite the doctrines, they could police the boundaries of belief for 1,000 years, but they could not erase the memory from the soul itself. They could only teach us to ignore its call. And that is why this revelation is returning now. Humanity has reached a point of collective crisis, a dark night of the soul on a planetary scale. The old structures of meaning are crumbling. The old promises of fulfillment are ringing hollow. The deep ancestral ache for wholeness has become a roar that can no longer be ignored. We have followed the external path to its absolute limit, and we have found it wanting. The only direction left to explore is inward. The ancient knowledge was not destroyed, it was merely waiting. It was waiting for a time when we were so lost in the desert of the mundane that we would finally be thirsty enough to drink from the well of our own inner being. The forces that suppress this knowledge are not merely figures from history. They are symbolic energies that still operate today. It is the voice that tells you that you are small, the system that tells you that you are powerless, the culture that tells you that your inner world is irrelevant. But another voice is rising. It is the whisper of the Gnostics, the echo from the desert caves, the quiet insistence of your own soul telling you that there is more, so much more to who you are. The conflict is no longer on the battlefields of ancient empires. It is within you. It is the choice between the conditioned reality you have been taught and the luminous reality you are beginning to remember. Are you prepared to go deeper into this mystery, to witness the moment when the buried truth was finally forced back into the light? For the proof of this entire forgotten legacy was not lost forever. It was sleeping, sealed in clay, waiting for its own moment of resurrection. Imagine the year is 1945. A world is breathing its first ragged breaths after a global firestorm of conflict. Humanity is exhausted, its grand narratives of progress and certainty shattered into a million pieces. And in this moment of profound planetary vulnerability, in the scorched earth of Upper Egypt, a discovery is made that will forever alter the story we tell about ourselves. It does not happen in a university or a museum, but with the simple percussive sound of a farmer's tool striking a sealed clay jar near the cliffs of Nag Hammadi. The sharp crack of baked earth breaking under pressure was not just the sound of a container shattering, it was the sound of a 1600-year-old silence being broken. This was the turning point, the moment of no return, a truth that was not merely buried, but held in a state of suspended animation, was about to be resurrected into a world that had forgotten it ever existed. Inside that jar, and others found with it, was not gold or ancient relics, but something infinitely more precious, a library of the soul. 13 leather-bound codices, their papyrus pages brittle with age, contained over 50 texts that the architects of orthodoxy had condemned to the flames of history. These were the Gospels of the so-called heretics, the intimate writings of the Gnostics, the unfiltered voices of a Christianity so deep and mystical it had been deemed too dangerous to survive. For the first time in over a millennium and a half, the hidden current of the Master's teaching flowed back into the light. This was the revelation. This was the physical, undeniable proof that the story we had been told was not just incomplete, it was a carefully curated fiction, designed to conceal a far more powerful truth. The lost knowledge had not vanished. It had been waiting. The consequences of this discovery ripple backward and forward through time. Suddenly, the official history of Western spirituality is exposed, its foundations trembling. The Council of Nicaea is no longer a moment of divine clarification, but an act of political censorship. The burning of libraries is no longer a tragedy of antiquity, but a deliberate campaign to erase a path to spiritual sovereignty. The Nag Hammadi texts proved that the early spiritual landscape was a vibrant ecosystem of thought, and at its heart was the radical Gnostic idea that humanity is not born into sin, but into a state of amnesia, a divine forgetfulness. The goal was not to be saved by an external power, but to awaken to the divine reality already blazing within. What does it mean for the world when the voices of the silenced suddenly begin to speak with such luminous clarity, their words echoing across the centuries? Among these resurrected scrolls, the Gospel of Thomas stands as a pillar of this forgotten legacy. It contains no narrative, no miracles, no biography. It is a stark and potent collection of secret sayings, each one a key designed to unlock a door within the listener's consciousness. When it states, "The kingdom is inside of you and it is outside of you," it ceases to be a comforting platitude and becomes a precise instruction for perception. When it declares that if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you, it is revealing the core principle of the astral monad gate. Your salvation is not a gift to be earned, but a reality to be remembered and experienced. This was not a gospel of faith. It was an operational manual for the awakening of the soul, a direct challenge to any institution that claimed to hold the exclusive keys to the divine. And then there is the voice that was most brutally suppressed, the voice of Mary Magdalene, who emerges from these texts not as a penitent follower, but as the chief apostle, the one who understood the deepest mysteries. In texts like the Pistis Sophia, she is the one to whom the resurrected Master reveals the intricate architecture of the cosmos, the journey of the soul through the unseen realms, and the passwords of light needed to bypass the cosmic gatekeepers that feed on ignorance. Was this not the very map for navigating the astral currents? Was this not the advanced curriculum for the inner circle, the detailed guide to the spiritual technology of the monad gate? Her role was erased and her character rewritten because the wisdom she carried was the ultimate threat. The revelation that the path to the divine was a knowable, navigable journey, and that the sacred feminine was not a subordinate force, but an essential guide on that path. The discovery at Nag Hammadi, therefore, did more than just add new books to a scholar's library. It returned a stolen birthright to humanity. It offered a key to unlock the sacred wound of our collective forgetting, the deep, persistent ache in the modern soul. The feeling of being an exile in our own lives was suddenly given a name and a history. It was the memory of our own sovereignty, the ancestral echo of a time when we knew how to walk the luminous pathways of our own consciousness. The texts are not merely a record of an ancient belief. They are an active invitation. They are a call to end our spiritual dependency and to reclaim the temple that lies dormant within. They affirm that the ultimate authority is not written in a book or vested in a priest, but is found in the direct, personal, undeniable experience of gnosis, of knowing your own eternal self. The scrolls have been unsealed. The words once whispered in secret under desert stars are now available to anyone with the courage to read them. The physical locks have been broken, the 16th-century-old seal of clay turned to dust. The forgotten legacy has returned to the world of the living. But this revelation presents a new, more profound challenge. The external battle against the forces of suppression is over. A new, internal one has just begun. The texts are a map, but a map is not the journey. The knowledge is here, but knowledge is not the same as experience. The gatekeepers of antiquity are gone, but have we not built new ones within our own minds? Walls of doubt and fear and distraction. The greatest mystery is no longer what was written in those ancient pages. The mystery now is what will happen when you dare to apply that truth to the one place it was always meant for, the silent, infinite darkness of your own sleep. And so, we arrive at the threshold. The dust of 16 centuries has settled. The seal of the clay jar is broken, and the words that were meant to be silenced are now echoing in the chamber of your own awareness. The final pieces of the mosaic click into place, revealing a picture far grander and more intimate than the one we were given. This was never a story about a distant savior in the pages of history. It has always been a story about you. The revelation of the astral monad gate is not a forgotten myth. It is the rediscovery of a dormant human faculty, a spiritual technology for liberation that was so profound, so empowering, that entire empires were built to make you forget it. They did not just hide a teaching, they hid a mirror, one that reflected your own divine and eternal face. This ancient knowledge, resurrected from the desert sands, is not meant to be placed in a museum. It is a living key, and it has been returned to your hand. Its purpose is not to create a new belief, but to ignite a direct experience. The true and final chapter of this story is not written on papyrus. It is written in the silent, infinite potential of your own consciousness. The path to the monad gate is not a journey to a faraway heaven after you die. It is a nightly pilgrimage into the heart of your own being, a conscious exploration of the inner cosmos that you enter every time you close your eyes. Sleep is not an ending. It is not a void. It is the temple. It is the laboratory. It is the sacred training ground where you can learn to shed the costume of your mortal identity and remember the luminous self that wears it. This is the practical application of this recovered wisdom. To transform the third of your life you spend in darkness, from a state of unconsciousness into the greatest spiritual adventure you will ever undertake. The great forgetting taught us to seek our power, our validation, and our salvation from external sources. We were taught that we were small, born into a fallen world, and in need of an intermediary to connect us to the divine. This is the deepest wound in the modern soul. The ultimate message of this hidden legacy is the medicine for that wound. It is the unwavering truth that you are not a fallen creature. You are a fragment of the divine. Source itself, a monad of pure light on a temporary expedition into the world of form. The kingdom of heaven is not a reward for your obedience. It is the very fabric of your true nature, a reality you can access directly. To remember this is to reclaim your spiritual sovereignty. It is to understand that you need no priest, no guru, and no institution to grant you permission to commune with the source of all that is. You are your own oracle. You are your own temple. The journey from this moment forward is an internal one. The architects of orthodoxy who burned the ancient libraries and rewrote the histories are long gone. The external battle for this knowledge has been won, but a new set of gatekeepers has taken their place. They are the voices of doubt in your own mind, the deep conditioning that tells you this is impossible, the fear of the dark, and the endless distractions of a world designed to keep you from ever looking within. The ultimate challenge is not to believe this story, but to become brave enough to test its premise. It is the choice between remaining a passive believer in someone else's reality or becoming an active explorer of your own. What would change in your world if you knew with the certainty of direct experience that you are an immortal being of light? What fears would vanish? What limitations would dissolve? The knowledge has returned. The memory is stirring in our collective soul. We are living in the time of the great remembering. This revelation is not meant for one person, but for all who are ready to awaken from the long slumber of separation. This is a call to end our spiritual dependency and to become the pioneers of consciousness that we were always meant to be. The most profound question, then, is not what was hidden from us for 2,000 years. The question that truly matters is the one that now stands before you in the silence of your own heart. What is the first thing you would ask your eternal self if you knew you could? Meet it tonight in the luminous dark. Let your answer be a whisper in the comments below, a declaration that you are ready to begin the dialogue. This is more than a story. It is an invitation to reclaim your birthright, to explore the vast and sacred landscapes within you, and to remember the magnificent truth of who you are. If this message resonates with the deepest part of your being, subscribe to this channel and join a community of souls who are walking this path of awakening. Share this revelation with someone else who is searching, for a single candle can illuminate an entire room, and a collective of lights can transform the world. The greatest lesson from this entire forgotten legacy is not that a master once showed the way out. It is that the door was never locked, it was merely hidden, and the key has been in your possession all along.